Well, everyone, it's 7 o'clock. It means it's time for us to get started. For those of us who are in the room and also who are on the live stream, really happy that you're here. My name is Sara Butler. I'm a fellow practitioner, unitic. I like to call us that. I came to yoga meditation looking for community and a group to meditate with after the yoga. But I came with my mat and everything, but realized, that we didn't have to go through the postural yoga in order to get to meditation. So it was a perfect match for me. That was back in 2015. And been coming every Saturday morning, more or less, since then, even through the pandemic. And so I'm really grateful to be a part of the Saturday morning yoga sunrise meditation group. And I'm happy to share this practice with you. So what we'll do today is have our sit like you would normally do with Richard, but more in line with the practice of the systematic yoga meditation that we went through last week, in case you were here. And we'll stay connected with the live stream so that you can listen to our discussion that's following, and we'll end 8:15 or so. That's my plan. But we can stay longer if there are more questions or really engaging topics for us to talk about. So, to begin our practice, I want to om us in together so that, we're breathing together in unity, and the togetherness, the unity of the sound of the om is something that we're going to practice and we'll learn about in the fourth of the series, right? We're in second session now, continuing on. We'll two more Wednesdays until we're finished with the series. I'm glad to see you all here from last week. So let's om. Everyone begin by breathing in deeply together. Om. Great. Now we're going to spend some time stretching the body with some gentle stretches. If you were here last week, nothing technical, don't need a mat, don't need anything. You can even do this in heels. It's just to ready our body for the 30-minute sit that we'll have in a moment. So if you guys will join with me, I'll even do this with my microphone on. So we're just going to, like I said, gently get our bodies prepared. And this begins with the hip circles. Either direction. Works fine. If you have a chance in your practice to actually do yoga, if you're a practitioner, that always works too, but at least we can get a few minutes in before we sit. So go to the other direction. The hips is where most of my tension sits, so this always feels good. All right, gently side bends. Now, if you can, breathe with your bending. This makes it even more effective. So consider inhaling on the up, exhaling on the down. Connecting our body with our breathing. Now we'll do upper torso twists, which everyone recognizes the goalposts. Keep your lower body stable and just rotate your upper torso gently. Don't force it. Again, if possible, mindful of the breath, moving the body with the breathing. All right, we'll move then to turning the doorknobs, my personal favorite as a side sleeper. Crunch, crunch, crunch. This is my favorite. And when you're ready, shoulder rolls to the back. And then switching directions to the front. Okay, now we're going to bend the neck. Well, first is the chicken neck, I like to call it, where we're moving laterally forward and back. Like a chicken. And then lateral tilt, ear to the shoulder. An exaggerated no, look over the shoulder, keeping the neck straight. Your exaggerated no might be strong if you're a parent. This is my practice. No. And then finally, the exaggerated yes. Maybe taking some space to allow your head to hang as you look down. All right. Now, the final stretch is a full body stretch. Just interlace your fingers and pull your palms to the ceiling. And straighten your legs, and then allow your arms to fall to the side. We'll do that one more time, but this time consider putting your thumbs to where your non-dominant thumb is on top. It's a challenge for today. Okay. Wonderful. So hopefully you feel a little more loose, prepared. Have a seat when you're ready. If you're at home, I'm sure you're in your comfortable meditation position. If you're here, maybe you're in chairs you don't normally meditate in, but try to sit towards the front of the chair, tall and well. And I'll ring a bell, and we'll begin. But if you haven't already, close your eyes. While we wait for the bell, consider setting an intention for the practice. Ask your mind to be your friend as we go inside. The bell brings us to this threshold. For a moment, consider your surroundings. Use your senses outwardly. What can you hear, feel, outside or in the room that you're in? Turn that interest inward. When we'll begin our meditation inward with the most gross representation of us, it's our body. So just like you're an interior researcher, we'll be scanning the body, beginning with the top of the head. For a few moments, bring all of your awareness to the top of the head. You may experience it as looking down at the top of the head. You're touching the top of the head. You're feeling the energy. There are many ways to do this, and however you're sensing the top of your head is just right for you right now. You can't do this incorrectly. We're exploring the top of the head, and we're three-dimensional beings. So we'll descend down to the forehead, but also at the same time the back of the skull. Bring your awareness to your eyebrows and your eye sockets. Balls floating in the liquid of the eye socket. Bring your awareness to your cheekbones, your nasal cavity, your ears, and continue the descent down to your mouth, your lips, and your tongue. Feeling your jaw, descending to your neck, the muscles inside, the throat. Bringing the awareness to the shoulder blades, sensing if there's any tension there or not. Now we're going to research down the length of the arms, the upper arms, front and back of the elbows, forearms, wrists, hands, fingers. For a moment, feel all of your awareness at the tips of your fingers. And on your own, at your own pace, retrace from the tips of the fingers back to the shoulder blades. And once you're there at the shoulders, explore the back, the whole back body, from the top of the shoulders all the way to the lower back. If you've done this practice before, consider something different. Beginner's mind is amazing for this practice. Once you've explored the back, push through to the chest. See if you can sense your organs inside, the contours of the skin on the outside. Descending down into the abdomen and the hips. Your upper legs, cylinders that they are, front and back of the knees, lower legs with the calves and shins, ankles, feet, toes, and the tips of the toes. And on your own, once again ascend from the tips of the toes back to the hips. Savor this exploration. We don't often give ourselves enough time to savor the body. From the hips, continue our ascent back through the abdomen, the chest, and the back. Once you're complete with the back, travel once again down the length of the arms to the tips of your fingers. As you can imagine, from the tips of the fingers, the final ascent to the top of the head at your own pace. What's it like in this body? And once you've reached the top of the head, zoom out a bit to have a sense for the whole body. The whole body in stillness, where we have the chance to move, but we're choosing not to. The whole body in stillness. The whole body is stillness. Now notice the breathing. Notice the body being breathed. No controlling, just noticing the quality of breath. Noticing the breathing, bring all of your awareness to the space above your navel and below your breastbone. Small space here, about the size of the palm of your hand. We're going to practice diaphragmatic breathing. So on your next exhale, pull your abdominal muscles back towards your spine, emptying your lungs. And on the inhale, just release those muscles to let go. The air flows in spontaneously. Exhaling, blowing the air out, pulling the abdominal muscles back toward the spine, and then letting go, surrendering the breath to the inhale. We'll maintain this practice through the rest of our time together. Diaphragmatic breathing. Exhaling, pulling in those abdominal muscles and letting them go on the inhale. Now, spend some time in this place to notice any disturbances, any irregularities in the breath. And take some time to practice making the breathing smooth and slow. Seamless from the inhale to the exhale, and silent. Continuing to allow the breath to be moved by the diaphragm rather than our chest muscles. On the next exhale, see if you can elongate that exhale. Allowing that extemporaneous inhale to just be, but focusing on exhale, the elongation of the exhale. We're adding on. Next time you exhale, imagine the breathing from the top of the head down to the base of the spine. And on the inhale, imagine the breathing from the base of the spine to the top of the head. Exhaling down the spine. Letting go and inhaling up the spine. You might experience this as a visualization of a milky white stream. You may feel cold or warmth, vibration along this pathway, or nothing at all. However you experience this is perfect. Now, with more space between the words, you may have distractions entering your field. Physical sensations, sounds, memories, thoughts. Our goal here is not to control the flow. Our goal here is to let those thoughts come and go. Let those physical distractions come and go. We're concentrating at this moment on the spinal breathing. Exhaling down the spine. Inhaling up the spine. If you do find yourself following a thought, getting caught up in that storyline, it's quite all right. With no admonishment, no judgment. Just simply bring your awareness back to the breathing up and down the spine. This might be a good time to listen deeply for the mantra of the breath. As you exhale down the spine, listen deeply for the body. Hum. And as you inhale up the spine, listen deeply. So. Perhaps you can sense the vibration of the so hum. Listening deeply for hum on the exhale. So on the inhale. Now we go even more subtle by bringing our awareness to the space at the nostrils. Become aware of the breath at the nostrils. That soft touch of breathing was there all along. We were just focused elsewhere. So now with all of our awareness here at the nostrils, on your next exhale, exhale as if you're breathing from the left nostril independently. Inhaling and exhaling on the left side independently for a few breaths. Now, on your next exhale, transition to the right nostril and breathe as if you're breathing from the right nostril independently for a few breaths. Now that we've completed this one round of alternate nostril breathing, we'll transition again on the next exhale to the left. Are you noticing any difference across the hemispheres? And the next exhale. Exhale using the right nostril and breathe from the right independently. One more round. On the next exhale, transition once again to the left nostril. And finally, on the next exhale, transition one final time to the right nostril. Breathing independently here for a few breaths. Return once again to the feeling of the breath at the space between the nostrils. Is there still an imbalance across the right and left hemisphere? If so, spend a few moments focusing on the restriction. In this tradition, the mind is said to be readied for deeper states of meditation if the breathing is evenly balanced and the energy beneath the breathing is therefore balanced. If you haven't already, bring all of your awareness to the feeling of the breath as one stream at the space between the nostrils. This very small space, this very subtle space where there is no up or down or left or right. This is where we focus our mind. In this space, allow all your thoughts to come forward. Let them be in the foreground, watching them come and go. We are witnessing the feeling of the breath at the space between the nostrils. This is our space of meditation. For the remainder of our practice, we remain in this space, anchored by our breathing. Continuing to allow distractions to come and go. Refocusing as many times as necessary to the space between the nostrils. Now we'll go into the silence as we continue the practice. remain in your space. Observe the silence at the center of consciousness. It's bedrock, it's substratum, it's always there as a refuge for us. Become aware of the relative quietness of the mind at this time. Which is enabled by the smoothness of the breathing. Which in turn is enabled by the stillness of the body. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Namaste. So for those of you who are with us on the live stream, I know we typically end at this time, but we're going to continue with our discussion in the room, and so you can definitely continue to participate with us. If not, you can also drop off, but would love to have you here. All right. So, I hope that went well for all of you. Seeing that this is the second part of a series, I thought I would do a little recap from last week for those of you who weren't here, or just want to catch you up so that what I'm delivering isn't out of place. So, yoga as meditation, as you see it on the slide. Yoga is it's a synonym, right? We know it in our culture as postural yoga, which is actually a preparation for unity with the center of consciousness, which is what actually yoga is. So when we say yoga, it's what we're striving for, which is that question mark, if you remember from the circle chart. So it could be practices to get us there and that place. It's an ironic word. But in this circle chart, and I might take the trip up to the chart, maybe not. But if you remember from last week, if not, I'm teaching it to you for the first time. It's nothing new, thousands of years old. The entire purpose of this practice is the realization of that question mark, right? So if you think about it, this is a really crude representation of the human mind. Human being, the center of consciousness is where everything emanates from. So that's that question mark, right? And before you were you were part of everything, and that is represented by that question mark. So the center of consciousness explored outwardly and projected outward. It projected the mental plane of consciousness, which you see there as the unconscious mind, conscious mind. It created the physical world. And in between there was that energetic world of the breath. We're going to focus on that today. But where we were focused on last week was the body and the outward projections. You can see that is our interaction with this physical world. I like to think of that as an eyeball. I think it's seeing things, it's doing things. This is where we are day to day. When we meditate, what we're attempting to do is to transcend these stages and revert back to eventually that question mark, that center of consciousness. So last week we learned about the body, and the body can be a hindrance to our meditation, or it could be the chauffeur, the escort, I think is the word that April used last week. So in taking care of our body, by getting enough sleep, by releasing disturbances, by eating good whole food. We prepare our body to be able to be a non-hindrance in meditation. And so we talked about how we can transcend the body, and that's why we pay attention to it first during meditation. So today, we're going to have a discussion about the breathing, the subtle body, or the energy beneath the breath. All of that stuff, that bridge between the body and the conscious mind, is on the table for today. So we're walking backward, right? So in this discussion, and I invite any of you to join, because I'm a practitioner just like you, sharing my experiences, and I would like for you to share your experience as well. Just let me know, and I get Erica is our lovely microphone lady. Thank you for helping. So what does science say about breathing? Well, I remember when I had my kid, I was pre-meditation, they taught us to breathe, the Lamaze breathing, right? The breathing can help the mind be at ease, can help the body be at ease. And so that to me is like the ultimate. There's science and a little bit of what the Himalayan masters taught us 2,300 years ago, is that the breathing and the mind and the body are all connected. So science is finally recognizing that the vagus nerve, that thing that is massaged when you know, the Darth Vader breathing. The vagus nerve, that is it's a quick way to help us relieve anxiety and to get us focused, and it's very much a pathway to helping us align those body, mind, and spirit through the breathing. So science tells us that it's important. We're all connected, which is true. I also wanted to share what I learned about what they taught us in the Yoga Sutras. That's ancient text, thousands of years ago, written. And we studied this actually in our Saturday morning meditation group. We had a book study on the Yoga Sutras, and it was amazing. I learned so much. But I would like to share from the Yoga Sutras what they tell you about breathing. So what I know is that there are 4 aspects of the breathing, or pranayama. We're very familiar with the first 3, right? The exhalation, the inhalation, and the transition between the 2. You can think of it as like the ocean waves, right? Where the exhalation is a falling wave, the inhalation is an ascending wave, and of course there's the transitions. That's where we operate. But there's a 4th aspect to pranayama that we aren't as familiar with, and that is what's there in the depth of the ocean. It's that space. I imagine someone gave me this visual. It's like there's so many waves across the top. You know, this is where the disturbances are. But if we can get our mind to the depth and imagine looking up at the waves, that's very still under there. And that's the breathing that we're reaching for. And the reason why we take all of those subsequent breath practices, they compound to each other during meditation in order for us to reach that state. So this is the goal of all breathing practices in this tradition. This really sets the stage and the mind ready for concentration and deeper states of meditation. So in this 4th stage, the breath has been transcended. When we can leave to forget the body, that's one transcendence, and we can forget the breath, that's the next. Then we're ready for concentration and the mind, unconscious and conscious mind, which is what Erica will talk about next week. So I wanted to quote Yoga Sutra 251 in case you want to reference it. The 4th pranayama is that continuous prana which surpasses, is beyond or behind those others that operate in the interior and exterior realms. Through that pranayama, the veil of karmashaya that covers the inner illumination or light is thinned, diminishes, or vanishes. So that tells me a lot of things, right? Our veil, our illusion the dimming of our light can be thinned or diminished. We all know that we're the inner light, right? And all we're trying to do in this world is remember that inner goodness, that we are actually, this is all us represented on the circle chart, right? And so if that is our goal, pranayama, the fourth ring, helps us get there. It thins the veil of karma, and it prepares us for concentration. And so the Yoga Sutras are really poignant in saying that this is an acquisition or development of a skill. It's not something that, oh, I can do that. It's something we have to practice. And meditation is one way that we can practice, hopefully more than 30 minutes a day, but we can get in our diaphragmatic breathing anytime we want and help access and allow for, when we are in meditation, to make it that easier to get to that place. So hopefully our practice on the cushion can be transcended into practice off the cushion in everyday life. So does anyone have any experience with that fourth aspect of pranayama that they wanted to talk about? I think that...
Remind me again what the fourth aspect was.
Sure. The fourth aspect is that deep ocean thought, where you are not thought, deep ocean in breathing, where you're not, there's no jerks or there's no irregularities that are defined by the mind. In fact, when I've experienced this state, I don't know whether I'm exhaling or inhaling. I just know that I am breathing.
So when I've experienced it during meditation, there's no thought, no emotions, just quiet. And it lasts briefly, because what happens, a thought comes up, right? Maybe the thought is to remember my breathing. Maybe the thought is, oh, I got to do my taxes, or whatever. It takes you out of that kind of blissful state that you're in briefly, and then I settle down, settle down, settle down. Are we talking about the same thing?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. So if the purpose in getting to this state is to thin our veil of karma or prepare for concentration, I wanted to reinforce the fact that there's a compounding effect, right? We've focused on the body and let it go, and we can focus on the breathing and let it go. And when we're at that state and we get to that place in our meditation where it's silent, there's no more breathing exercise, and we're just focusing in that space of meditation, that's where the concentration can take up, and we can be in that conscious, unconscious mind closer to that big question mark that we all want to achieve. Yes?
I don't know if you can hear me. So I think it's interesting because something you both said reminded me of my experience, where I'll forget to even acknowledge that I'm breathing because I've just kind of gone past that. And then the mind will come in and be like, are you breathing? And I'll be like, and I just think that's interesting, how the mind can play with us.
Yeah, the mind's goal is to distract, right? It is to remind us that we have an ego and to keep us from that exploration, so it can snap you back. Unfortunately, it's about taxes. Maybe there are other things, but that's definitely jarring. So let's talk about what this means in the practice that we just undertook. So think about your experience with the systematic meditation. So we started with a body scan, and then what did we do? We started diaphragmatic breathing, yeah. I can't tell you how important diaphragmatic breathing is to effective meditation in this tradition. It's one of the most important foundational practices for meditation. It's extremely relaxing to the autonomic nervous system, and it's named as essential for preparation. But, we don't breathe that way normally. Swami Jay teaches us that, in our stressful lives where we're almost always in fight, flight, freeze, we're breathing from the chest and the abdomen. We're not using the diaphragmatic muscle, which, when you're breathing diaphragmatically, the chest is very still. The body is very still, and it kind of reinforces that, overcoming and transcending the body if you're not moving with the breathing. So that's the foundational aspect that I see. And so when I'm in traffic or I'm frustrated or I'm in a rush, that's when I'm like diaphragmatic breathing. It's my trigger to practice. It's not always perfect, but the more that I can do that, I think it's a great tool to calm myself down and also to remember this is what I want to do in meditation all the time, right? So was diaphragmatic breathing a challenge for you? And do you have diaphragmatic breathing as a part of your traditional meditation practice? What was your experience with this if this is your first time? Just one second. She'll give you there you go. Thank you.
I will share that I didn't realize it, but that my shoulders were touching my ears until we started talking about focusing on the certain parts of the body. And I had no idea that my body was in such a stress format until we got really into the meditation.
Unfortunately, I think that's where most of us live, right? It is. And, giving that time to settle the body and then settle the breathing is definitely the pathway. But I'm with you, especially when I'm driving really quickly to hurry, rush to get to meditation. It's kind of ironic. But if you can think of, returning to that diaphragmatic breathing, it could help, even outside of the sitting. Did you notice any irregularities in your breathing when I said, hey, focus on smoothing out the breath, focus on elongating the breath? What did you notice? I usually have a lot of herky-jerkies to overcome, or I hold my breath at the bottom, or I hold my breath at the top unconsciously. Well, the breathing really is unconsciously controlled by the mind. So if there are irregularities in the mind, there are going to be irregularities in the breathing. And so that's why we spend some time smoothing out the breathing, trying to eliminate the pauses. And, that in turn can soothe the mind, right? I don't think it's a one-for-one correlation, but I do believe that smoothing the breathing definitely helps with the mind chatter. So that to me is a sign that we're doing something well. If we can consciously focus to eliminate the jerks, the pauses, even the shallowness of the breathing, then it can help with the mind's irregularities. Please.
I practice Sudarshan Kriya with Art of Living. Are you familiar with that at all?
Nope, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Well, it is a breathing practice. And after you do particular breathing practice, then they go into a meditation. But we learn, and I'm not saying it's the same thing, but the way we learn it is that we take in 4 breaths, hold, and then go out for 6. And when your expiration is longer than your inspiration, that's what triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah. So, but are you saying that we should not be stopping? That it's just a continuous in and out?
Yes,
Or is
it's
that not
a
really important
continuous,
either way?
seamless stream. Yes.
Okay.
And I want to say, though, that in this tradition we practice today, the elongation of the exhale is an advanced practice that when we're practicing on Saturdays, it's like look for that 2-to-1 ratio. So even 8-to-4 instead of your 6-to-4 exhale. That really helps with focusing the mind and allowing the concentration.
But no stopping in between.
No
Inhalation and
pauses.
exhalation.
That's right. You're rounding that corner, but you're coming right back.
Okay.
There's no intentional holding of the breath in this tradition.
Right.
Doesn't mean you're not doing your other work right.
Right, right. Okay.
Okay.
Just making sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think there's another question.
Just wondering, so I've tried it a couple of times, the diaphragmatic breathing, and I'm actually familiar with Art of Living as well. I did that while I was in college for the student It was like a student group that I did over the length of a week, I think it was. But I feel like every time, like I'm too conscious of what I'm doing, that I may overcomplicate it, if it makes sense, where I'm like, okay, am I supposed to, take it in when I'm inhaling or exhaling? And then I get confused in that whole thing. Is there like a, I don't know, something to keep in mind just to be more in the moment, if it makes sense?
That's a great question. And so I think there might be other answers with the group. But my answer is, if you were asking me for advice, would be to practice. Because it sounds like you've got the good, solid practice, but if you're new to it, you're going to think it through quite a bit. But if it comes something that you're doing on a daily basis, and eventually you're going to think less about doing it, right? It's going to be something that becomes more rote and part of it. And so the whole point of our sitting, even if it's for 30 minutes a day, is to remind us how to do this, how to fall back into that question mark. And so if you can get really good at it without thinking about it in meditation, the hope is that you do it in your daily life. We're reminding ourselves to get back to that center. So if you're nervous about overthinking it, eventually you won't. You did the same with driving, didn't you? My 15-year-old is going through that now. It's like, okay, he's thinking about every single thing, which I'm grateful for. But now I don't think about, I'm turning the knob up to make the turn signal go this way. So eventually over time it becomes something that is second nature. And I would encourage you to practice more.
Thank you. So this is good. It's helping me to think about this. So the diaphragmatic breathing for me is not part of my technique that I learned, but it's good. I can see it. But so correct me here. It's more almost like a physical exercise. I was concentrating on my muscle, right? Moving my muscle, as opposed to when I rested my awareness on my breath in between my nostrils, or even visualize the prana or ki going up and down my spine. That's more of a mental exercise, less so of a physical. So I can see where the diaphragmatic breathing is good, but it's different from the other two. True?
I experience it that way as well. It's something that doesn't come naturally to me. But again, over time, it's not something I think about now. After these years of practice, it's when I'm sitting down and meditate, my body goes to diaphragmatic breathing. So just like our friend in the back said about the thinking through the breathing, then I think it would be the same for you if your experience is like mine.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So you just mentioned our spinal breathing practice, Sushumna Kriya, where that was our next level in, right? Where we're trying to make sure that the cobwebs from our inner channel, also called the silver cord, I love that those cobwebs are cleared. And the energy that is beneath our breathing can flow in that central column. Now, some of you might have a similar practice related to chakra breathing or anything related to alignment or clearing of the chakras. The spinal breath is in that same family. And I'm not a practitioner of Kriya Yoga, and I'm not a Kundalini Yoga expert, but the spinal breath is an important part of those traditions, which do form the Himalayan Masters Yoga as meditation as well. But here's what I read in the Yoga Sutras about spinal breathing. When prana is balanced, which we'll get to in a moment, and is made to flow through the central channel, there comes an even deeper abiding peace of mind. The mind and heart only want to go inside for meditation. So this to me is like a very profound practice. And when I first began practicing, this would be the point where I would realize my posture was bad and I would straighten up because I'm breathing up and down the spine. Thoughts, which are thoughts, right? Which is okay. But, once I let go of the visualization, because I thought I had to do it right by seeing it. But as soon as I let that go, it became a really profound experience for me in that, I really felt I was connecting to something. It's kind of weird to think about, but I'm just sharing my experience because I want you guys to feel comfortable with sharing yours. So in spinal breathing, I like to elongate that practice a little bit longer in the whole scheme of things because I feel like this channel needs as much realignment as it could get. So maybe you guys have experience with the energy, the prana breathing with chakras, or have a particular interesting experience with spinal breath in these past 2 sessions that you've been with us. Anyone want to talk about spinal breathing?
It involves spinal breathing because the last 10 minutes before you enter meditation, you're thinking about, when you do your slow breaths, you are thinking from your sacrum to your crown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're going back and forth. And then the medium breath is here in your third eye area, so you're concentrating on that. But then the very, what's that? Breathing fast. When I'm breathing fast, then I'm thinking about my solar plexus, my heart, and then my throat, those 3 chakras. So that's what I focus on. I do that type of breathing for 10 minutes. Yeah, and then we go into a meditation period.
Got it. That's a beautiful practice. It's not unsimilar. I think they're related. In fact, if I were to look at Swami Jay's information about breathing, there's a bunch of different breathing techniques. We just choose to follow these. And so the ones that you described can also be used in place for the same process. As long as we're moving from the gross to the subtle, it's the same. Sounds like you have a very, very related practice. It's good. The last breathing practice that we, I'm sorry, Erica, did you have something to say?
Well, I was going to kind of say about the spinal breathing. I think when we first begin, at least this has kind of been my perception of it, when we first begin with diaphragmatic breathing, it's almost like we're focusing our energy. And I kind of tie breath and awareness, this is kind of where we're bringing the 2 together. So that with the diaphragmatic breathing, it's just one dimensional, like in and out, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we move to spinal breathing, it's kind of like, okay, now we're playing around with it a little bit, and getting more in touch with our awareness in general, to where then we're like, oh, okay, there it is. And then we can go into that space to rest and just fall into it.
Thank you for describing that. That's beautiful. And I like the word you used, falling. I hope you talk about that next week. Okay, the final breathing exercise we experienced together earlier was the alternate nostril breathing, where, we talked about making sure the central column was cleared. Now this is about balancing the energy across the left and right hemispheres. So it's the balancing prana. And I think last week, Averill mentioned Shakti and Shiva, the male and female energy. So this is what we're talking about, the balancing the left and right hemisphere. And I read somewhere once, another ancient text, about how our bodies just naturally go through cycles where one side or the other is more constricted or not. And I've witnessed that in my own body. If I sleep on my right side, then I'll focus more attention on that because that's where my blockage is. But the intent here is to balance. So that passage I just read you about, the central column being balanced allows us to really give all of our sensory inputs to the concentration. And so alternate nostril breathing was kind of weird for me at first. I learned with using my fingers, and now I can do it without the fingers, but when I learned that it's about the energy beneath the breath, I really understood that much better, because it's like, you can't really impact what the body's doing, but I can understand that prana isn't necessarily impacted by whether I have snot in my nose or not, right? It's about feeling the balance between the left and right hemispheres. All right, if you balance your breath, you balance your energy, you can balance your mind. You guys have any thoughts about the alternate nostril breathing? Okay. Oh, wait, there's one. Thank you, Erica.
I just have questions because for some reason when I was trying to do that, it's like I got a sharp pain, at least in my head, on the opposite side, like the right side. So I was just wondering if that was part of the process, or if it was odd, I guess, or unusual that happened.
I haven't experienced that. I don't know if anyone else could answer that has experience with that too. Might be coincidence, might not. But I would witness it next time to see if something else happens again. That maybe there's a pattern. And that would be something to investigate. Interesting. Okay. All right. So at the end, we brought all of our awareness to one stream. I hope you remember me saying those words, one stream, because we want to realize that the energies are balanced, and we can definitely be ready for that very one-pointed concentration. And if your place of meditation is at the space between the nostrils or anywhere else, like the point is that very single-pointed concentration, and allowing our breathing to go through those cycles to where we can get it under control, no irregularities, centered and balanced, then we'll be ready. And this is where Erica will pick up next week. So I hope that you noticed a little difference in the meditation. In fact, that last week the body was the focus. This week, I hope you noticed that the breathing was the focus. And as you practice, whether this is your practice or you're incorporating this, give some honor to that. You can't just plop on the cushion and with all of what's going on in the world and have a deep meditation. There's preparation in your life as well as preparation on the cushion to get us ready. So this has been a great experience for me to share with you today, and I'm really grateful for that. So if we could advance the slide, I really want to say we have a really great group of dedicated practitioners who meets on Saturday. The practitioners meet on Saturday, and we practice this very thing. For now, we are still in the Zoom mode, so we practice in our jammies, which is nice. But I'm interested in hastening our return to the Peace Chapel, so feel free to join us. The link on Unity North's calendar is updated, so check that for the Zoom link. And then we'll speak in there about when the return to the Peace Chapel will be. And I can't leave without saying Unity North is my spiritual home, and I hope it's yours too. And if you've been impacted positively by this message or this practice, please consider text to give. Or visit the giving page at unitynorth.org. There's also baskets in the back of the room if you're old school paper. But appreciate your attention and your practice today. It's a deep, deep bow of gratitude for what you've given. So thank you. You're welcome.